And welcome back to the broadcast, and we'll take you briefly to the CBD, of course, right here in Nairobi. We take a look at how the curfew is taking, guys, and indeed a majority of Kenyans sort of seem to be in tandem with this, and coming or crossing over to about 3-4 days into it, sort of are now adjusting themselves and realizing that yes, the government exactly meant what they were saying and the essence and necessity of this. But then again, lots of complaints coming across the country in regards to how this curfew should have been implemented, because then, of course, the economic activities for different counties are different. And the argument on ground is that maybe this wasn't the best thing that the government could have taken. A lot of reactions on social media, a majority of them saying that this would not have been the best aspect of the government, sort of in terms of ensuring that they're able to address this. But then we also have a communication consultant, Martin Wahogo, who will be joining me in a minute or so to take us through the essence of, first of all, how we get to communicate at this particular time when we are dealing with the COVID-19, how much we disseminate some of this information. The government constantly calling upon the Kenyans to limit how they're disseminating this information, and you should not go out there, speaking about something you're not certain about. You should be focused on ensuring that whatever it is that you disseminate to the people is factful. And of course, that's what we'll be discussing, even as we take a look at this curfew aspect, looking at the streets of Nairobi, all, of course, a clear indication that yes, we have decided to abide by what the government has presented. And of course, a majority of Kenyans equally saying that as much as, of course, the directives are tough, we're still willing to, focus to ensure that at least we are able to limit this, or to, sort of address this aspect of coronavirus, COVID-19. The projections being made by the government is that indeed the numbers might go even higher in the event that we are not careful as the people, shooting up to 59 cases now reported. Of course, one death also reported, which is something that is pretty much unfortunate, but we hope that together we'll be able to deal with this. And Martin Wahogo, good evening. Thank you so much for finding time to be here with us this evening.
You're welcome.
Yes, Martin.
You're welcome.
Yes, and of course we go straight to it. You are a communication specialist and consultant. The way all this information has been disseminated out there on the social media by the leadership, by the people within ourselves, do you suppose then that we are going wrong towards addressing this issue?
Not really. Not really. You've got to look at it from the different perspectives. The government has to do its part as government. Right. They've got a role to play, and it would be very wrong to expect the government to communicate the way the Mwananchi will communicate, Right. Then there's a central government, there's a county government, and so it's important for us to come together in such a moment. And there's a lot that's also on social media. There's a lot we are reading from all over the world and also from Kenya. Right. But then at the end of it all, we have to have that one focus as far as information is concerned. And realistically, if you look even around the world, the governments are the ones which are actually doing the communication. Yep.
All right. We're being told that government, our very own government, is not honest in how much it's disseminating its information. Some of these issues shrouded in secrecy. I think today, as I was listening to the Senate proceedings, one of the senators sort of came out to say that, that there's so much still that the executive needs to do in terms of communicating to the common Mwananchi. And, this is a government pointing fingers at the very same government that it's serving. What does it speak?
Again, think of it as government.
Right.
Government has a responsibility, and they've got a lot of things they're handling right now. As a citizen, I'm most concerned about myself, my family, that kind of thing.
Right.
The government is thinking about the whole country. And one of the very critical angles it has to always look at is, for example, panic. You don't expect the government to release information and statements that will cause panic in the populace, So whether or not they are hiding information, the reality is that it's neither here nor there, you know. Government is expected to manage information, you know. Let me give an example. The first time when government realized that we had a case in Kenya,
Right.
it wouldn't have made sense for them to discover today that they found out that there's a case, and then on the same day they rush out and tell the Kenyans that we've confirmed a case, you know.
Right.
Their priority is to identify the case, then first and foremost get in touch and get a hold of all the contacts that individual has had since they landed in the country. You see, so that's not the time to expect. You don't expect the government that time to come out and tell you we already have one person. You get. So if you look at it from that angle, you realize that when we are saying that the government is hiding information, a lot of the times, even if they withhold, I would rather say withhold information than hide information, because they don't have any reason to hide information, but they've got a lot of reasons to withhold information. You know, government doesn't have to say everything that they know or that they intend to do. You know, that's not how it works. This is government, and all of us, even you, Linda, if you're in that position, you do the same thing, because your intent is much larger than just satisfying everyone's what they say, need to get content for memes and that kind of stuff. You know, government is not very much excited with memes, for example. Yeah, so yes, they will withhold some information at times, and this is one of those situations where you don't expect the government to rush out and tell us everything and anything that they know. That's definite.
All right. Of course, we've seen pictures of a clear Nairobi, and I would want to assume that such is the case across, you know, most of the cities across the country in different counties. And of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta's declaration, or maybe announcement, of dusk till dawn curfew, that is 7 p.m. to 5 a.m., you know, as from Friday, the March of course, 27th, you know, it was more or less like the first time, again, a president came out to, you know, issue such an order since the infamous 1982 attempted coup. I mean, something that has been criticized by many, something that is being challenged in court as it stands today. What do you make of this, and was it necessary that we go to this point?
I think, in fact, that was a lot better than a full lockdown. You know, a curfew has various purposes, and one of the purposes that so far I've not seen guys on social media talking about is security. You know, as all these things are happening, people are being laid off. You know, I personally have friends who so far have already lost their jobs. Others are having their, you know, they're being told to go on forced unpaid leave. You know, that kind of stuff. Among some of the stuff that could happen, for example, is there could be a lot of unruliness. You know, you could have guys who decide to go to the local kiosk, and you know, crime most of the times happens at night. You know, it's very difficult to just find mobs during the day, but you know, during the night, a lot of these things will happen. And even during the 82 coup, after the 82 coup, when there was that curfew, the main reason, and it was explained to us very well, was security. You know, so that is one of the reasons why it's important that this happens. And then to a large extent, it also allows us to start preparing, you know, because they've been telling us, and the minister has repeated this, the president has said it, but the minister at every press briefing is reminding us to basically stay at home. And that message is being pushed a lot, but you know, it's not really being heeded very well. So also, when you go for curfew, I think it's also training us to learn how to just stay at home, you know. And 7 o'clock, I mean, you know, most guys in Kenya, 7 o'clock, that's the time you're usually out with friends on the road and all that, you know, taking it very casually. But now, there's no option. You are there at home from 7 all the way to the morning hours. And I think it's necessary. And I don't think it's affecting a lot. People are still working. Those who are opening their businesses are still opening their businesses. And I mean, we are managing.
Are we that hard-headed as a nation or as a people to a point whereby we still have gone, like we can go to that point where we lose lives. Yasin Moyo, a young boy who was killed on a stray bullet, of course, while police were trying to disperse a crowd. And you take a look at some of the feedback on Twitter, and Peter Njenga says coronavirus has so far killed one person. President Uhuru Kenyatta's curfew has killed 3 people so far. In short, would we say that this directive is the biggest pandemic, and of course a clear indication that that is cause for alarm? I mean, are we that hard-headed that we cannot abide by these laws, that we have to lose people?
Linda, let's just agree. Kenyans, we have a way in which we operate. There's a way in which we look at issues, and kusema kweli, I mean, si ni kichwa ngumu sana, and especially in the recent years where there's been an opening in this sphere where we can talk, we are free to say what we want, we can respond to even the president, we can do whatever we want, say whatever we want. That freedom, that extra power we've been given as a society has made us, which is the best word, watukutu, where even in such a situation where we can see what's happening around the world, we are still assuming that it's not me, bado janifikia, and I've been arguing with guys, someone tells you, I haven't had anyone around me, is it real, as late as this weekend, someone actually asked me whether is this thing really happening, is it really there, and I couldn't believe it, but that's who we are. We are a very empowered society, which is a positive in its own way. But again, in a situation like this one, where guys just, we need to take, sometimes it's not about memes, it's not a joke, there are times when we stop joking and get very serious. And this is one of those moments. I've been telling guys that this fight is not mainly, especially for someone like me, the young guys, there are young people who are dying. Let's not assume that we are not dying. I think there's a 16-year-old who passed away, I think today or yesterday. So if a 16-year-old can pass away, then anyone can pass away. But then the highest number of victims are the aged, like my dad. He's 79 years old. I'm definitely worried about him. I've already told him, atuonani, he won't be seeing me for at least a month, or at least to the point where this pandemic is under control. So we are talking on phone, we are doing all this, but I'm being very serious about it, because he's in that high risk bracket. But I mean, we have all these guys who are still going to the villages, they are still going back to visit their parents in Shags, and you really don't know whether at that moment when you are going, because you've not been tested, whether you are very safe, and that's just who we are. It's how we roll. We are very casual about even very serious matters. And personally, this is one of those moments when I have been hoping that Kenyans for once will take it very seriously, and it's not about politics, and it's not about memes, we just take it as seriously, with the seriousness that it deserves.
I'll use your words and ask this question. An empowered society that is grappling with the question of poverty, grappling, with struggles for survival as it stands today, and in as much as maybe they'd be willing to proceed and do what the government is giving as a directive, it is almost hard for them to be able to achieve this based on the situations that they live in. I mean, how then best can we address the issues so that we'd say, okay, Kenyans can comfortably walk home and say, it's okay, I do not have to sell, jugus out, in the dark. I do not have to go out there and do this. I do not have to have my pub running throughout the night. At least I'd be able to know that tomorrow I'll still survive.
Well, this is one of those moments when you just have to be real, It's not going to be comfortable, and it won't work as smoothly as we'd all want it to be. Definitely, the individuals who are going to be very hard hit. As I mentioned earlier, I have friends who've already lost their jobs. I was speaking to one yesterday who, the contract was not renewed, and that's just the reality we are in. So it's going to be tough. There are those individuals who work on a daily basis. The person has to go kwa mjengo or maybe the person is employed in a pub, you know,
Right.
you earn your 300 shillings every day. As long as you don't go to work, you don't earn anything, you know. So those realities are there. And I won't lie that I have a solution or there's what I know would happen to such individuals. But that's now one of those places where you just trust that the government has plans as far as that is concerned, you know. We've seen the Rwandan government has set up systems where they are providing food for the underprivileged, you know, and they have systems. I was looking at photos which I was sent by a Kenyan friend who's there, and they have rosters, you know, and this is from, they have this system in the villages where everyone registers, you know, and that's the system they're using to feed their citizens. So if it's being done in Rwanda, there's no reason to believe that it cannot be done here in Kenya.
The argument is that you know, you can't compare Rwanda with Kenya in terms of population, in terms of size of the country and all that. Is that just a way of trying to run away from the reality?
Well, it might be, because you also can't compare our economy with that of Rwanda. We are a lot bigger than Rwanda. Okay. We have systems. We've got, I mean, Kenya is an amazing country, you know. I mean, you remember during the post-election violence,
right?
The railway was uprooted at Kibera, and Uganda shut down. You know, for us guys, it was just a railway that was uprooted. For Uganda, it was a lifeline to the economy. Right. So if you try to compare Kenya and Uganda, again, the dynamics are very different. So our economy is very versatile. We are a very dynamic country, and I'm suspecting that probably that's why also the government is doing what it's doing. You know, you'd wonder why they haven't just locked down the country already. You know, but then you saw even President Trump is struggling, you know. I personally actually equate Kenya with the US. You know, there's some economies where you just don't wake up one day and just shut it down, you know, and Kenya is one of those economies. Kenya is a hub in East and Central Africa. So if we woke up today and just shut down the country, a lot of our neighbors will suffer, you know. And there's the issue of, do we take care of our people immediately or do we worry about the other guys, you know? But then again, I don't think a government reasons like that, you know, and I am a citizen, so I will be there asking those questions, but a government has bigger interests, and that is something that we have to appreciate when we are looking at these kind of things.
Yes, the question tonight, and you know, so much so has been put about towards ensuring that we're able to address these policies being crafted, ad hoc committees being formed towards, you know, just seeing to it that as a country we're able to deal with this. And the question we ask is, are of course these pledges or these promises or these measures put by the government actionable as it stands today? You talk about an economy that is a hub, and we look at even the curfew that we're talking about. Most of the people in Nyanza region, you know, this side of Kisumu, arguing that, you know, it's going to be hard because, you know, some of them will go out fishing at night. So how best can we look into the well-being of such individuals and the measures that have been put by the government was seeing to it that indeed we're able to apply them so we can deal with this?
I don't know, Linda, I don't know if they've noticed it, but you know, so far the government hasn't given us the measures that they are setting up for the Mwananchi per se. Yeah, they've been doing stuff for business, and that makes a lot of sense. You look at the macro level first. They've offered, they've worked with the banks. Remember, the CBK governor was there presenting what they've discussed with the banks. Yesterday, we saw the private sector being enjoined in this battle. So they're handling the bigger angle first, because, you know, at the end of it all, the Mwananchi like me who's employed, I still look up to my boss, you know, to the business. So as they are taking care of that, I believe and I'm very sure that they're also setting up measures to, what word we use, to support, to support the Mwananchi, and we just have to wait and see what the government has in store for us. The most important thing is what are we doing as a populace, you know, and that's a discourse I wished was there on social media through and through, you know, the angle of telling guys, take care of yourself, protect yourself, wash your hands, you know, sanitize, but most Kenyans, you see, cannot afford the sanitizer. So use the soap and water, 20 seconds, the virus, in fact, Linda, I've been hoping that the media would be telling guys more about what a virus is. Right. The fact that a virus is surrounded by fat. So the same way you wash your dishes in the house and you use the soap to remove the fat on the dishes, when you wash your hands with soap, likewise, do you remove the fat around the virus? Right. And once it's exposed, it's dead. You know, and that's why you're being told wash for 20 seconds, because within that period, the fat protecting the virus has been removed, and so it's the virus does not survive, you know. So since most of us can afford soap, it's the easiest thing, you know. And then after that, if it's a social distancing, the minister has been mentioning it every time, and he's really insisting. But see, we have to say it as it is, you know. Right. As the virus spreads, and we can see that it's spreading around the country. I saw the map that was released of the reach in Nairobi, you know, and it's quite wide. Now the thing is this: at a certain point, there's what we call the viral load. Yeah, the viral load is where if it's one person in a room who's infected, the viruses that the person emits when they cough, it's just a small amount. Right. But if there are 10 of you in that room, when you all cough, those are a lot of viruses in that single room. Right. So if there's a person who's not who's negative, it makes a very huge difference when it's one person in that room coughing and when it's 10 people in that room coughing. And that is where the minister and the government and, you know, all these guys who are telling people what to do, that's why they are telling us to keep that social distance, stop congregating very many people, because at a certain point, that's going to make all the difference. And I think we are actually getting to that point now, because as the minister told us yesterday, the social spread of the disease of the virus has begun. So now is the time to battle even more. You know, stay and keep off, so that we reduce the spread as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Martin Wahongo. It was nice having you this evening and quite informative right there. The conversation continues on our social media pages and, of course, hashtag PledgeWatch. And the question again is, are the government pledges or, of course, measures being put on board on addressing the issue of COVID-19 realizable or actionable as they stand? And as, of course, as Martin would say, it's pretty much important that we abide by those rules, because then again, in a huge way, we'd be able to address this issue. If only and only we, of course, stop pointing fingers at the government and looking forward to the government to issue that help. It all starts with you. Remember, it was a special edition of Pledge Watch. Next week, we take up on another Mheshimiwa, crossing fingers that indeed the situation will have been tamed even further. It was great having you. Thank you so much, Martin, once again. And we're looking forward to have you some other day, even as we try to ponder more on the COVID-19 issue. My name is Linda Alela, of course, doing this with Anne. It was great having you. See you again next Tuesday.